Hey, hello everybody. It's Thursday, the 24th of March. It's about 4 p.m. UK time, so it's time to begin today's very special Marine Biology Live. Um, Marine Biology Live is a series of monthly talks and conversations where we invite members of the marine biological community to share the work that they're doing to explore, understand, and sustainably interact with the ocean and its inhabitants. Before we start the session, remember that those of you who joined us on Zoom can use the Q&A function to ask and upvote questions. If you'd like to ask a question in person after the talks, then you can raise your hand using the raise your hand function, and we can activate your microphone. If you do join in the discussions, please remember that all of the interactions are going to be live streamed and recorded to share publicly. There's going to be a live transcript of today's event, and you should find a link to access this in the chat. So I will post again now. There you go. So if you have any trouble accessing that, or if you have any trouble with any other technical difficulties, then you can use the chat function to contact us and we will try and help you. Finally, if you're not already a member of the Marine Biological Association, please consider joining and supporting the work that we do, and also becoming part of the marine biological community. You can find out a bit more about that on our website, and I will be probably posting a link to that periodically throughout the session. Okay, so without further ado, as today's Marine Biology Live is a very special session, we're going to hear a series of short talks by our speakers, and after that, we're going to reconvene for a panel-based Q&A discussion at the end. At that point, you'll be able to put your questions to our speakers and hopefully join in with the conversation. But please feel free to add questions as we go along as well. Now it's my pleasure to welcome back to the MBA virtually Arianna Liconti. Ari, she's the chief of the Marine Biological Association's Mediterranean Special Interest Group. Arianna is going to be chairing today's session about citizen science in the Mediterranean. So I will pass you over to her.
Welcome. Thank you so much, Jack, for the introduction. I can't see like all of you in face, but it's nice to be back, at least virtually. The MBA has been a place where I grew so much, and I do really miss it. Even if I don't miss the rain in the UK, I definitely miss like the community and the atmosphere that the MBA created. So it's really nice to be at least virtually back. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Jack, for pulling this together and inviting us over to talk about marine citizen science in the Mediterranean Sea. So I'm actually going to share the screen just to put a little bit more into context what we're going to talk about. Can you see everything well, Jack?
Yeah, that looks good to me.
Awesome. Okay. So all of this chat that we're having today is actually part of the Marine Biological Association Mediterranean Special Interest Group, which is basically a way of not closing door, not even with Brexit, on partnerships in between regions, and in particular to showcase Mediterranean research in the Mediterranean Sea in the UK and UK research in the Mediterranean. So what is happening right now, this live, it's just what we're looking to do. So it's very exciting, and I'm very, very grateful to Matt Frost for actually having this happening, this special interest group, and I also welcome everyone who wants to join the group, or at least participate or create some materials and some opportunities in which researchers can get together like this live to please get in contact with me or the MBA. And whoever wants to even start a special interest group that focuses on everything we can in order to understand better our ocean and collaborate across boundary and co-design and projects together. So I hope that also this session will be inspiring to people to get together and will also stimulate some other discussions. So putting this into context a little bit, so I graduated actually from my Master of Research in Plymouth, and it's in the UK that I discovered citizen science. So I was one of the first volunteers of the Capturing Our Coast citizen science project that was looking to involve people into monitoring the intertidal zone around the UK coastline. So I was always astonished by how like the sea would just like go back for like 8 meters or so, and people would love to explore and see what's there. And we would teach them how to actually monitor what's there as well. So from Bangor to Plymouth, and I did my Master of Research there at the Marine Biological Association. And Eve, that you see in this picture, was one of my mentors. I always spend lots of time going around the corridors of the MBA and scanning, especially deep sea pictures and slides for Eve. And then my thesis at the MBA in University of Plymouth was actually, of course, on citizen science. And here there's also me presenting my thesis at the ICMARA conference in Oldenburg with other of my classmates as well. And I hope that some of the people that I worked with are also here listening. I was looking to basically include data of Gorgonian forests, so underwater corals in the Mediterranean, to include citizen science data into trying to understand how to better protect these ecosystems. And we've pulled out quite a big data set, and actually finally the publication is coming out. So fingers crossed you're going to see it very soon, also on science media. And then from the UK back to Mediterranean, and always for citizen science. And today I'm so excited because it's actually one of the first time that I'm presenting a very new big project which focuses on citizen science to the community to the UK community. And this is OutBe, and is a very newly funded startup that focuses on citizen science. So OutBe is based on the fact that, on like David Attenborough sentence, that we can't actually protect what we don't care about, and no one will actually care about what they have never experienced. And this is the power of citizen science as actually an active way of doing environmental outreach. And through OutBe, our purpose is to link science, nature, and society through outdoor sports. So one key problem that I've always seen in, like, there have always been different problems to citizen science projects that were always referring to maybe some scientists had the idea of a project, but they didn't know how to actually gather the people. Or maybe there was a group of people that wanted to give back to nature and the ocean, but they didn't know how. The first aim of OutBe is actually to fill this gap and provide a place where people that do the outdoor sports they love, they can actually get involved into marine research, and so contribute to their environment, their well-being, in a measurable and also very fun way, because it's doing outdoor sports. So the main aims that we're trying to fill is, of course, in order to protect the ocean, we need to understand it. So enhance data collection for ocean conservation, involve all of the outdoor community in data collection and restoration, and then facilitating these connections and also supporting them. So basically, again, same thing. In order to protect nature, we need to understand it. So what if by doing the outdoor sports we love, we can help science as well, taking care of ourselves and the planet at the same time? This is the overall storyline on which OutBe is based. And so this is the team at the moment, and it all starts with Luca. So Luca actually is both a marine biologist and an outdoor guide. And when we met, we actually thought that sports could be a great way of involving people in marine research, because maybe there's a scientist that want to monitor jellyfish in a bay, and maybe there's lots of outdoor enthusiasts that paddle that bay every day, and they can actually help the scientists to monitor those jellyfish, for example. And then the team grew up, and yeah, everything is coming together quite quick, even if we started everything a couple of months ago. And And of course, I'm not going to tell you like what citizen science is in this chat, because we're going to hear so many different descriptions of it. But like, let's take a step back and let's try to understand the overall importance of it. So by involving people in marine research, so by involving society in marine research, of course, there's more data available to research. But at the same time, if more people actually go out and explore nature, that gets back to society, well-being, and environmental literacy. But at the same time, this data supports policy, and these policy actually support indirectly economy. So in order, like, if we predict better, for example, when some like extreme weather events are going to happen, because we have more data to prevent it better, maybe we can avoid expenses. Of course, more people enjoy nature. There's more tourism, local tourism. More people enjoy nature in a more aware way, and there's more actually responsible tourism. And so everything comes back with the way that we actually get out there and experience nature in a more aware way, and in particular the sea. So this is what the ecosystem that we are trying to build, and we're going to showcase some of the examples today in our chat. So maybe there are some citizen science projects or research initiatives that are looking for data in a particular place. And maybe there's people or outdoor centers that can be linked to those places, and in particular, they can be linked to those processes. But what is the deal with business as well? Because this is a startup and it's not an NGO. It's because in this, one of the problems that I've always had with these projects is that, of course, you need grants in order to support them. But what if companies can actually be one key part in this as impact makers? So companies can actually decide to participate and support in these connections. So do good for the environment, also their employees that could participate in these things. And in particular, all of these, the citizen science impact can feed in sustainability scores. And I assume that for like the science community, this could be a little bit like out of reach, but for us, it could be actually a solution in order to build a sustainable business also for nature. So where we are currently thriving is through a landing page that you can find online, social media, where we're actually storytelling the connections in between sport and science, in particular in the sea, because that's where we're starting. And then we're building different partnerships to support this ecosystem. And this is in order to also invite this community to form. This is also a way that if you have a project that could have the help of citizen science, or if you have a citizen science project that might need more people, then this is the place where we're forming these connections. And as we are forming them, we have our first partners, our first research partners who have been pivotal to the development of all of this. And among this, there's the Center of National Research of Italy, University of Genoa, and EMODnet. And actually, these three partners are here with us today in order to showcase what are the first projects that have been happening in the Mediterranean Sea on citizen science that have been linking science and outdoor sports. And so this is how we get back to our Science Live. So today with us, there's Mariachiara, who's the lead researcher at the University of Genoa in marine ecology. We have Francesca Garaventa, who's the lead researcher at the Center of National Research, in particular for the study of sustainability and anthropic impacts. And then there's Antonio Novellino, who's a research manager at EET in Genova, and is also the coordinator of EMODnet Physics. So all of these people have been great researchers, but in particular researchers that really want to get research out of research centers only. They want to involve people in data collection. They want to do an outreach which is not just on paper, it's just not just on screen, but it's active and out there. So I'm very excited to be pulling this together. And the first, so we're going to go through a more like ecological part towards a more pollution and physical case studies, and each one of them are going to showcase their case studies to us. So I'm gonna now leave the stage to Mariachiara, and she's going to talk about how she used the citizen science as a mean to actually monitor the intertidal region in the Mediterranean. And in particular, we've been working very closely together in the restoration of two species, one species of limpet. I actually have it here, one species of limpet and one species of seaweed in the Mediterranean Sea. And if you have any questions, as Jack was saying, please pop them in the Q&A, and then we're going to answer all of them after all of the free talks.
Thanks a lot, Arianna, for a very nice introduction. Thanks for inviting me here, and well, thanks to all the colleagues in the MBA for making this thing happen. Well, I will start sharing my screen. Okay. I hope me confirm. Can you confirm you can see, Arianna?
Yes, I can see.
Okay. So we're going to talk about ecological restoration and citizen science. So ecological restoration, active ecological restoration is something that is really required worldwide in order to prevent biodiversity and ecosystem function loss everywhere. So the connection between ecological restoration and citizen science is already quite established in the terrestrial environment, and for sure also in other marine systems, but at least in the Mediterranean, it is still at the very beginning. So the intertidal in the Mediterranean is actually, well, for you guys who are used to live in a macro tidal region, of course, it's something very narrow. You see in the picture a few tens of centimeters, but still you can detect quite evident zonation of organisms. First story I want to talk, Arianna already introduced this, we're going to talk about a brown alga, a canopy forming brown alga, habitat forming and in regression in many areas of the Mediterranean. In particular, we've been focusing on Schistosera mentacea, which is a species particularly sensitive to environmental conditions, to pollution, sediment load, and so on. As you can see from these maps, well, Schistosera mentacea is one of the species. This is the Ligurian Sea, okay, the Ligurian region facing the Ligurian Sea. This species was actually present in the easternmost part of the region, but it is presently absent. Also, the conditions, the environmental conditions have improved, and also there is a marine protected area, so conservation measures are implemented. But the life cycle of this species has strong constraints because this species has a very limited dispersal capacity, and therefore it cannot actually come back to the area where it was present in the past. So we started this LIFE project, ROC-POP, aimed to restore the species in the Cinque Terre MPA, marine protected area, using the approach of the outplanting. So, I mean, we have been culturing the germs in the laboratory and then outplanting the juveniles in the field. So here you can see, well, the activities were performed having a marine protected area Portofino as a donor site. We performed 6 ex situ outplanting events, collecting a large number of fertile apices, because you know the outplanting is actually a method quite little invasive, because we only collect a few apical portions per individual, and we transport these apices in the laboratory laboratory where we actually seed the substrates, in this case clay tiles, as you can see here. So these are the apices on the clay tiles. Then we perform the culture for around 3 weeks, more or less, and overall we cultured over 2,000 tiles, obtaining more over 200,000 juveniles on these tiles. Very first important result actually we got is a very high survival of the juveniles in the transport. So from the laboratory in Genova to the marine protected area of Cinque Terre, the survival is over 100%. And here you can see a tile when it leaves the laboratory, and here a tile after a few weeks. Here I have a video just to show you briefly how the tiles are attached to the substrate using screws, and you can see it was a very calm day, but of course the system is quite hydrodynamic. The deployment effect of the tiles requires drilling of the rocks. You see on the upper left side of the picture. And then we screw all the tiles to the substrate. And of course, as I said, the system is highly hydrodynamic. And this, of course, is one of the major issues we need to face. But desiccation is actually another big problem, particularly during the summer season when the tiles may be exposed for hours, totally out of the water. Here you see again some images regarding the deployment of the tiles. Here you can see how they grow fast in the field. So in 20 weeks, they are already 2-3 centimeters long, the juveniles. And from 1 year to the other, these are juveniles deployed in 1 year earlier, and these 2 years earlier, so they grow pretty fast in the environment. And we've been improving the approach, so you can see that the survival of the tiles here, I don't have seen the data, but the survival of the tiles has been increasing from the first trials we performed in 2018 until 2021. And there are very good news in terms of how these organisms behave in the environment. In fact, last year we found the specimens that we had deployed already fertile, and they released eggs. So we are confident that there will be a self-sustenance of the implantation. And also the environmental quality of the stretch of coast where we deploy the tiles, the Schistoseira juveniles, has increased. So here, in this case, of course, we use an index based on the macroalgal community that is called Carlit, and the area was already pretty good. In fact, the score was 0.72, but after the development in a couple of years of our Schistoseira specimens, the score increased up to 0.9. So we moved from the class good to high. Second story I want to tell you is about Patala ferrugina. Patala ferrugina is a limpet, of course, and it is considered one of the most endangered species in the Mediterranean. It is endemic of the Western Mediterranean, and so this was the distribution known of the species until 2018. So largest populations in the Alboran Sea, particularly in the southernmost side of the sea, and some pretty good populations, but not as large in North Sardinia and Corsica. So the species was actually reported as missing along the Ligurian coast. Also, we have evidences from the Neolithic and Paleolithic age that this limpet was present, because we found it in the caves of the Candide, so in some burial from the very ancient ages. But this species was reported absent, so we started this project, again a life project called the RE-LIFE. And first very nice result, surprising result we got is that the species is actually present in the Ligurian Sea, also with very few specimens and very scattered. But in 2018, while we were monitoring the area for finding the best sites where to start restocking, we found 32 limpets. And in the following years, with 2019, 2021, we increased the number of records up to 72. So these are of course, very small numbers. So they are not, they're not saying that we don't need to restore the species in the area, not at all, but they provide evidence that the species can thrive in the area. And so this is actually supporting all our activities that were actually mostly focused on the reproduction of the species. So we want to restore the species in the area by controlling the reproduction. And we gained this very important result of having the specimens spawn in the laboratory using completely non-invasive methods. So here you can see some females and males spawning. So we have been following the whole larval cycle. Of course, we published the data and so on. But so last year, you see some of our juveniles, and again last autumn, increased into a size of around 1.2 centimeters, and these specimens have been well, very recently, a few days, well, 1 month ago more or less, deployed at sea. So, and here citizen science comes into play. So how can citizen science help marine ecological restoration on shallow rocky shores in the Mediterranean? Actually, this area is an habitat largely neglected by scuba divers and also by bathers. So a first approach we started in combining research and citizen science is a project called Portofino Seaweed Garden, coordinated by Outdoor Portofino in collaboration with our department, DISTAV, from the University of Genoa, and Portofino MBA, and founded by EOCA. And the activities were mostly carried out by Edoardo Battistini, who they made his master thesis in Bologna University. And here you can see the guy in the field. So this is Gnasca, the area very close to Portofino. This is the Portofino promontory. This is the Portofino area where Outdoor is located. And here is the place where the seaweed garden was established. So people, Edoardo and other colleagues from Outdoor performed all the cultures of the juveniles in the lab, in collaboration, of course, with us. And here you can see some of the steps of the deployment at sea. So here are the tiles in the environment. And then the outdoor community was actually strongly involved in the monitoring of the tiles. So an app was developed in order to upload pictures of the tiles and provide additional information regarding the ecological, well, the species assemblage in the nearby area. So the data that were collected by the outdoor community were actually used. Here you can see again some pictures of the growing juveniles have been used for the thesis of the master thesis of the student. Another example, well, this is more typical in the sense of citizen science involvement. This is, I said, is more typical in the sense that is citizen science involved in monitoring the presence of Patala ferrugina. So Patala ferrugina was actually, we already launched a campaign for the detection of possible other species, other specimens, sorry, in the Ligurian coastline. And in this project, coordinated by Guardia Costiera Ausiliaria, and you see many other colleagues from Outdoor, ourselves, and of course CNR, and Francesca will later talk about more about this project. We performed activities in the Nervi coastline, so very close to the Genova city center, and we made some monitoring of macroalgal assemblages and eventual patella ferrugina presence. You see here a slate that we were using for recording the presence of specimens and the different algal communities. And the people made an assessment while co-steering. So here you can see some of the results from this is the ecological index Carlit value in the coastline. So the green and blue are for high and good environmental status, and of course yellow and orange red are not so good. But so these are all data collected by the citizens. So you can, our project are actually finished, but of course we have a long afterlife of our activities, and actually we plan to continue anyhow all the what is in progress. And so these are some of our socials for ROC-POP and RE-LIFE. So we really invite you. I will write down the links to the websites in the chat. And well, thanks to all the people involved in the activities, and all the students, and again all the citizens. Of course, I don't have pictures of all of them. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chiara, for this introduction to the projects. In this case, the research center that was involved was University of Genoa. The sports involved were mainly snorkeling and co-steering, and they were linked with the outdoor centers that's local to Genova. So it's again an example of what could happen when people in science get together. And people in science could get together also while paddling, and they could also be helpful in monitoring not just the ecological state, but also pollution. And this is what we've been doing with Outdoor Portofino and the Consortium of National Research of Italy. So I'm very happy to introduce Francesca Garaventa, who's lead researcher at the CNR. And Francesca is going to showcast a case study that is focusing on how paddlers, in particular like kayakers, can monitor for microplastic and also eventually plankton as they paddle. And we have been involved together in a series of projects where we were actually testing these methodologies. So she's going to introduce them to you. So Francesca, the stage is yours. If you turn your microphone and camera on.
Yes, but no.
Okay, I can hear you, but I can't see you yet.
Arianna?
See? I can hear you, but I can't see you if you turn your camera on.
Oh, Belim.
Francesca, is your camera not working? Or
No, I have problem. Can you hear me?
we
yes.
can hear you fine.
Okay, but I have problem of the, sorry, but I can manage it because I have some problem with the screen, and I can control the screen. So if you want to move to Antonio, I can to disconnect and then I will connect again.
Okay, that's fine. No worries, no worries.
I cannot control the screen. I don't know what's happened.
Okay, that's fine. No worries. No worries.
Okay. I will
that's okay.
Disconnect. Sorry.
That's okay. No worries. We all have these technical issues. I mean, earlier we were speaking to Jack and he was like, oh, I forgot that you actually take time to go in between an in-person meeting and another. So it's hard, but we'll eventually get there. Okay, so you can use it to monitor pollution, but you can also use it to monitor physical parameters. And Antonio is actually one of the people that are involved in the advisory board of OutBe, which is the project where that I was talking about. And he is one of the coordinators of the EMODnet Physics group, So I hope that maybe Dan Lear is listening, but I know that the MBA is widely involved in EMODnet. And if data is the language that we use to understand nature, data needs to go somewhere in order for scientists to actually analyze it and share it widely. And this is what EMODnet is doing. So Antonio, stage is yours for oceanography and physics.
Thank you so much. There is a lot of expectation on my presentation now. So let me try and share the screen first. Okay, hope you can see it. Can you hear me? Can you see it?
Almost. Wait. Okay, yeah, can see it now.
Perfect. Yeah, okay.
Great.
Very good. So I'm going to tell you about the European Marine Observation Data Network. That is one of the main marine data initiatives in Europe. It has been initiated by the DG Mare, about more than 10 years ago. And it has been organized by building thematic communities for managing the data that are belonging to different topics. So we have one project following the chemistry, one geology, one biology, and of course we have also physics that we are going to see more in the next slides. And each community was in charge for the data aggregation, data processing, and data dissemination by both providing access to original sources as well as creating new products and services. And on top of this already quite huge network of expertise, since 2016, we also have we added two more facilities. That is one, the central portal that is providing a central point of access to this huge amount of information and data, as well as an EMODnet ingestion facility that is helping people, researchers, and hopefully soon also citizens to share their data. But now let's go to physics, which is, the specific project that I'm coordinating together with one friend that is also in the audience, Patrick Orange. Basically, the EMODnet physics goal is to integrate and make available ocean physics data. So we are speaking about operational near real-time data, as well as delayed mode and reprocessed and validated data. And the goal is to make available these products on ocean physics by building on top of already available infrastructure, redistributing products and developing own products and data collection for further elaboration and to reach out new communities. And while doing this, the one focus for physics was to make this data and metadata findable, accessible, interoperable, and usable, to make the best use and wide use of this data. And of course, to do this, we need to use and promote harmonization and common standards. EMODnet physics is about in situ data and reanalysis. And of course, we are dealing with all the ocean physics parameters. I won't read them, you know more than I do this. Just to give you an idea of what is EMODnet physics, this is 1 month of platforms data. And if we have a look at 10 years back, then we have this wide amount of data. But of course, somehow this is also misleading because the real dimension at the sides of each dot that is a collecting platform is not that big. It's much smaller. So we still have huge gaps in the data collection. And of course, these gaps are mainly in the coastal areas where the citizen can do, a big part of the job. Before going to the concept of the citizens and how these people or these projects can help, initiative like EMODnet to be even better and more exhaustive, let me give you a couple of words about the ingestion process. Usually, the ingestion process is a collaboration between the initiative and the people and the initiative that are already doing activities to collect data. So basically, what we do is, as a first action, we identify the source. That could be either we identify new potential data sources, as well as we collect the willingness to share data. And in case of the citizen science, somehow it's something in between, because we know people are ready to share the data, but we also have to do some step towards from the Marine Data Initiative. Then what we need to do is an analysis of the data set in order to understand which is the best data transport format, data model, and so on. Then we need to start the mapping of this information versus some common metadata in order to, let's say, have a common language to distribute this data. And then we can integrate and make it available in physics. And so we close what we call it the data ingestion phase 1. So we make this data visible and accessible on at the European level. But then in parallel, we also start, a further process that involves also other marine data integrators that are sister projects or sister initiative of EMODnet 1. So we also have an open dialogue with the Copernicus program, CDataNet at the National Geographic Data Centers, the ICES, the Oceanographical, and many other international initiatives. And in order to do this, what we do is we start this process in order to see if this new data can also fulfill the specific needs of these other initiatives. And then we also work together with this initiative and with the data source in order to integrate this data into new products to make even a wider use in the application of this potential data source. And now just to give you an idea how we are approaching the inclusion and ingestion of citizen science, little by little, we move from something that is close to citizen science to real citizen science, at least as far as we identify. One example is the activity that we're doing with the fishing vessels. We started this process a couple of years ago, and then the idea was to use, actually there was already a wide community of people that were using these gears attached to the fishing nets, and they were collecting temperature and salinity and other properties while they were doing fishing activities. And so there was a clear potential of this tool, because if we look at the picture in the center, we see the differences between what is done by research community, so in the top, and what is done by the fishing activities. So let's say the red colors in the bottom plot. We see that they complement each other quite a lot. So it means that if we pull together all this data, we can have a better resolution and density of the information. And so we started this process, and together with some people that are running some system and provide also the expertise to teach the fishermen how to deploy the tools and how to manage the data, we were able to already have this data into EMODnet Physics, as we can see in the panel, in the right part of the panel. Another example is from the professional divers community. And in particular, we have the EET communities that is already doing quite a lot of activity on climate change effects in marine coastal ecosystem. And what they do is they are doing periodic recordings, collection of data in given sites. And again, discussing with this community, they are professional divers, but they are also professional researchers. And so they were already collecting and organizing the data in a way that can be consumed by other communities. And so it was the connection between this community and EMODnet was straightforward. And so we can see again some example of the data that has been provided by this community into EMODnet Physics. So we see, for example, the place in Portofino as some profiles that have been collected by the system that they deployed there. Another example, next example is also, drones and unmanned vehicles. Here, for example, we see the data that has been released by Sail Drone while they were doing some missions from America to the Central Atlantic Ocean. And this is quite nice tools because as we say, as we can see, it's an unmanned, so you can deploy it and leave it recording for a long time, also in a less accessible area. And we can see the movie in the bottom part of the slide, in which we see also the temperature around Antarctica. But now we see that if we have a community that is able to organize the data flow and mediate somehow the harvesting and integration of this data towards the marine initiative, then we can see the benefit of having the citizens as data source for data. And now we get also to the concept of OutB that we really, like, because in the end we have the possibility to have an entity that is mediating the activity of citizens that are willing to do sports, but they are also willing to contribute to data provision to this initiative. And here we can see an example of a mission, let's say, that we did together with a kayak. And while we were kayaking, paddling, on top of that, we were also collecting data with a small sensor that was attached, you can see here in the picture, was attached to the kayak. And so here we can see the temperature as recorded while we were doing, a small tour of the Paraji area. And maybe you cannot really see it, but here we have a very blue line because the temperature was, it was cold. It was about 11 degrees. Then we have around 12 in the pink one, and then we go to more than 13 degrees in red. And if we have entities like OutB, then it will be easy to collect this data, organize this data, and make them available in an organized data set and be included in a wider collection visible at EMODnet Physics level. And other example of citizen science are the data that can come from educational activities. Here we have an example of the educational passages in which we have students around the world to prepare and deploy and track their own mini boat while they are learning about ocean currents, weather, technology, and more. And so we can also have information from these tools. But in this case, we have not this data yet in EMODnet Physics because we are missing one piece of the chain. We are missing the mediator, the expert mediator that we had, for example, in OutB, we had in the EMODnet, we had in the official vessels. Because as I introduced before, what we need is an expert group that can somehow translate and organize the data according to common standards that we can consume in order to make this data consumable and usable in the EMODnet Physics, for example. But now, just to give you also an idea of what is EMODnet Physics, how the data that the citizen or each initiative is delivering to EMODnet Physics can be consumed and can go back to the source. Here we have the portal that is, you see that you can filter according to the topology of the source and the topology of parameters. Then you can pan and zoom the system. And then once you have selected the specific platform, the dot that you see, then you open, if you click on that, then you can access the platform page, which is presenting the data as it was collected. Of course, we have several different platform pages according to the topology of the platform. In this case, we are looking at a glider page, so it's an unmanned vehicle. And so we see profiles of temperature and salinity cycles, and we can browse across the different missions that has been done. But if we have, just a surface monitoring point, then of course we are going to see just a time series of this data. But EMODnet Physics is not only in situ data and the collection of the data that is coming from this platform. It's also the combination of this data into products. And we are offering a product page in which the user can see and play with several products. And I invite you to play a bit with the system and also give us feedback about how easy it is to use it and how easy it is to consume the data. In this case, we can see a nice example of a product that is based on the recordings of temperature, for example, from floating devices. So in this case, we can see the latest 60 days of data collected by gliders, for example, and so we see the temperature along the track. And this is, gliders is a professional tool that is used by researchers, but is the typology of the data that we can have is very similar to the one that I presented before. If you're running, if you are paddling a kayak on a sea. So you can see the potential of combining these two tools and having a very high resolution in the coastal area. So we can combine this kind of data. It will be very nice to put pull them together in order to increase the resolution of the products that we can make available. And then, of course, if you click on the track, then you go back to the better page. So we can also show, the original data source and the system that has been used to deliver that specific data. And if you combine and pull together all the potential data sources that are floating on the sea surface, you can have a very nice overview of for example, in this case, we are speaking about the temperature of the sea surface temperature globally. And but it's not the final endpoint, because in the end, from this, let's say, sparse and in situ data, then we can also combine them into an even more added value product. That is, for example, a reprocessed data. So we can read this data. So we make averages and over beans of this data. And then we can have a climatology. So if we do this kind of processing over all the recordings that we have in the system, then we can have a very long-term time series of the data. And then we can also reproject this data over one single point. So we can see the time series for that given point. We can see the profiles, because of course we have a multidimensional data set. So we can see how the temperature is changing during the month, as well as we can have an idea of the climatology of the data. For example, having the averages for the seasons. And this is quite useful product for running research, but as well as it's also a very nice way to have an idea of what is happening at the sea if I'm a single citizen and I want to be informed and be aware about what is happening around me. But the time is flying, so that was my last slide. As I said before, I really invite you all to have a look at the portal and play a bit with both the map viewer as well as the product viewer, and tell us about your feeling. And of course, please consider that we are now moving towards the ingestion of many citizen science potential activities. So be linked to an initiative like the one that Arianna was presenting, because it's quite important for us having this new typology of data source in order to really have a higher resolution of, in better collection of the data across the world.
Thank you so much, Antonio, for this chat. Also, it's really nice to see where the data that we collect goes, at least for me as a scientist. Of course, we are Italians, so we like talking. We're running out of time. So very short introduction for Francesca, who's back on track after having some technical issues. There she is.
Hello.
Okay, I'm sorry that you're the last one and you're the only one who saying this, but let's keep track of time because we're running short and we'd like to answer some of the questions that are coming.
I'll try.
Stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. And sorry for the problem I had before. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I will tell this story today, but of course I'm not the only character of this story, but a lot of cool people is involved in what I'm going to tell you. The topic of my story is plastic. And as you all know, plastic is a very emerging and not only so emerging, but a very serious threat to the marine ecosystem quality. And in 2020, it has been assessed that anthropogenic mass overlap the living biomass. And this author calculated, and the collaborator, that plastic reach 8 gigatons compared to 4 gigatons of animal present on the earth. So this is a very huge problem. And the production of plastic is continually growing, reaching a level very, very impressive. Most of the plastic that we produced is used for packaging. And as you know, packaging very fastly become waste. The destiny of plastic is mainly to stay on the seashore or in the sea. And this author in 2015 published this paper calculating the amount of plastic that is unmanaged, the amount of plastic waste unmanaged in the seashore, in the coastline. Considering the Mediterranean Sea, you can see that the Mediterranean is a very tiny water place in the global water, but it hosts almost 10% of the world marine biodiversity. So it's a very important natural place. And it has also a very high economical value because it's accounted for about 20% of the marine gross product. And in 2016, the overall assets of the Mediterranean Sea was really very high, $5,600 billion. But IUCN calculated that every year 200,000 tons of plastic is leaking in the Mediterranean Sea. That's equal to almost 500 shipping containers every day of plastic every day reaching our water. So the problem of plastic is very, very hot in the Mediterranean Sea. And of course, when we talk about macroplastic, then macroplastics, once entering the sea, became microplastics. Microplastics is one of the belongs to the novel entities. You know this graph, Rockstone and the collaborator in 2009 defined the planetary boundaries. So the boundaries that allow our planet to stay in a constant and resilient status. And some of these boundaries is already beyond the zone of uncertainty. And concerning novel entities, so pollution, we already do not know exactly in which level of the safe condition we are. Among the novel entities that are threatening our ecosystem, there is marine pollution, and plastic pollution is one of these. We need a lot of data to understand this problem, and fortunately, a lot of international regulation are monitoring the level of these pollutants. There are still a lot of questions open around this problem, both concerning macro, micro, and nanoplastics. And the focus is on the question that allow us to understand the source, the presence, and the destiny of the microplastics. We, as a research institute, are doing a lot of survey, a lot of campaign. We are working under the umbrella of different European and national projects, and we are monitoring the presence of microplastics all over the Mediterranean and not only waters. Thus, this investigation allows us to produce data, to understand the level of presence of plastic in the different basins of the Mediterranean Sea, and even to identify some hotspots. Most of the plastics we found is the mirror of what we put in the water. So polypropylene and polyethylene are the main polymer we find in the water. And these polymers are those most produced in Europe and are those that are mainly used to produce packaging. To do this survey, we use different kind of ships, and we use, for analyze the superficial water, the manta net. So we are applying the protocol that is recommended by the European Marine Strategy Framework Directive. But we need more data about plastics. And we need this data not only for the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, but also to understand and to monitor and implement the Sustainable Development Goals to reach the quality of the good quality of the marine environment. The data that we use to implement SDG and to monitor SDG comes from different sources, but of course, we can also have data generated from citizen science. And about plastics, data generated from citizen science already demonstrated to be very useful because for instance, the recent single-use plastic directive comes from the output of the Marine Litter Watch, that was a citizen science project managed by the European Environmental Agency. They produce a list of the most common plastic objects on the beaches. As on this list has been produced the recent directive. But what about microplastics? we have this question to answer, but we have also to raise the awareness of people and to involve people in solving this problem. And we need the help of people. And Paddler can be, of course, a group of people that can help us. And so I'm going to tell the story about one outdoor project, kayak, and a cool crew that contributed to work on two projects, Microplastic Answer Project and Blue di Genova, a project that the title is in Italian, but means discover, study, and protect the city of our sea, Genova. I'm going to show you a video. Hope you can see it. This video is a sum of what we did.
Francesca, just to say we can't hear the audio from the video, but you might want to just talk over the top and explain what's happening.
Okay. And so the aim of the project was to validate the use of the kayak as a boat to perform the sampling of microplastic and the use of little nets, manta nets, that we built and developed for this project. We work in two parts of the Ligurian Sea, one close to the Genoa city and the one in the marine protected area of Portofino. Here are some results. Of course, all the citizens have been involved in the sampling activity, but the analysis of sample has been performed at the CNR laboratory. Here you can see the abundance of microplastics. And as you can see, the mini manta, so the little manta that used with the kayak are more efficient in collecting microplastics, because you see in both in these two sampling mini manta, the abundance of plastic in mini manta was higher than the one collected with manta net. So the system is more efficient. And what about the dimension? Both the instrument was able to identify the same dimensional classes. So the accuracy of the new instrument is very equal to the one used, recommended by the European MSFD. And what about the polymer composition? Both the instruments are able to identify the same kind of polymer in the sample. So again, even for the chemical, the polymer type accuracy is the same. So we are going to say, we can say that the new instrument, the mini manta, and the citizen science the involvement of citizens in the collection of the microplastic is almost to be certified. We are very satisfied by this, and we think that this instrument can be very useful because, as you can see in this map, these are the transects that are monitoring in the Ligurian Sea according to from the regional agency to satisfy the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. So we have only 4 transects along all the coast of the Liguria. We can involve in these sampling activities the people that the kayaker and even the people that sailing boat, and so to spread the use of this manta net all over all the people that love outdoor sport, and we can really improve the geographical distribution of sample. And this is very, very important achievement, we think, because this is what we need, so to improve the research quality and to gain more data, but in the same time to make the research and the problem more relevant for the society. So we think that these two projects can pave the way to involve and to spread this technique and this citizen science instrument for the microplastic monitoring, because we need the kayaker support and the outdoor sport to save and to protect our sea. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Francesco. So it's always really nice to see like the pictures of us in action. It reminds us like how amazing it is to actually get outdoor and do the science that we love. So thank you so much. Okay, so running over slightly as Italians do, but I think everything was so interesting that I hope most of you are still here. So thank you. Okay, can I go through? So I've taken the freedom to actually answer with Antonio one of our questions. So Jack, shall we go through the questions that we have? And
I was just going to say as well, if anybody does have to kind of disappear, I've just posted a note in the chat, but if people do have to disappear, then you can catch up on the question and answer session later on YouTube. So we will take any questions now and discuss them. Yeah, so I don't know if you wanted to quickly sort of mention the first question that came up. So Kaylee asked about how accessible the sensor devices are for the UK. I know, just being in the UK, we've probably got quite a few people from the UK who'd be interested in this, and the answers are there. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else to that, or
yeah, well, it's just to say that so at the moment, so there's a couple of sensors that have already been implemented, and the kayaking one, the Brizo that Antonio was talking about, is still like in testing. So the trial that Antonio was showing was the first actually trial of the sensor in the water. So as soon as we have tested it and is actually like up and running, then you're going to definitely know it through our channels, and all of the outdoor centers and outdoor enthusiasts who are linked with us can actually access this. So yes, and also consider that there's a lot of also other ways to be to contribute at the same time for temperature. So as Antonio was saying, diving computers. So it's like most of them they have pretty accuracy now, and then there's also the SmartFin project who we are in contact with. And so you can get on a SUP board or a surf and actually monitor for sea temperature.
Thank you. I've posted a link to the OutBe website in the chat as well. So if people wanted to go there to sign up to be told about any new developments, then there's the link there. Okay, so Vicky Exley's asked a question as well. So Vicky's asked, regarding all the projects, have you been reaching and recruiting citizen scientists? Do you feel as if you've been able to reach as many people as you would need to? So I think that's one that's open to anybody who'd like to take it, who's been working with citizen scientists.
Well, I think it's always the issue. Like recruitment is always like the tricky part, and this is what we're actually trying to do. There's a lot of people that want to get involved, but scientists can't always like reach them all. So we're trying to do the reach for them. And I don't know if any of the researchers out want to answer. Have we managed to involve like the people that we needed, or do we need more?
We always need more.
We always need more, yeah.
So far, we have mostly been using socials for recruiting people, and well, I think it's useful, but it doesn't really reach all the people. And probably sometimes I'm afraid that people reach maybe they are not really at the end involved, committed with the issues. So I really think that we need to involve a largest community and provide them also tools for understanding how important they are. I think it's something that is still, it's much more common for sure in British people. I think this commitment with nature, and instead the Italians and Mediterranean people, I think, are more...
We're flaky.
Indeed. We really need to have citizens more committed.
Yeah, it's not just about recruitment, but it's also retainment. That's the problem, because people, they need to understand what their wider impact is. So it's just like they might think, oh, what is the point in actually counting limpets? What is the importance of a limpet anyway? And if you actually explain them how like a limpet is actually the engineer of the ecosystem and then they actually start to understand like what is the biggest importance of what they're doing.
Yeah, one other point is also that, I mean, for me as an integrator, it's more than important having, endpoint which I can refer to in order to integrate this data. That's why I like the initiative like OutBe, because they can be the mediator for us in order to inform and recruit and engage the citizen in order to do activities. So we need, at least at the level of projects like marine infrastructure, EMODnet, and so on, we need someone that is taking care about, the widest community. So we need to have a sort of branching out nodes that reach out the widest audience possible, in order to be able and really have the impact that we are expecting from these kind of activities as well.
And if I may add something, I think that the important thing is to have this kind of collaboration. I mean, because the message that people need to receive must be a very correct and under a scientific point of view message, because otherwise the misunderstanding on what people is doing. I mean, it's not only sport, it's not completely science, but the message has to be clear, has to be translated, and the OutBe and this kind of company may translate in the proper way the message and mediate the message, because sometimes we as researchers are too scientific in our way of speaking, and it's not always simple for people to understand the problem. So this connection, this collaboration is essential to reach the goal of citizen science, that is to get reliable and strong data.
And it actually links quite well with what Vicky is saying as an answer to, well, another question to the question. Because she's asking if we work in person in the towns in Liguria to go to the communities rather than like letting the community actually come to us. So this is something that as at Outdoor Portofino we've been doing quite well. So in general, like people have like they don't like enjoy nature always on their own. They try to do it as part of outdoor centers or with other like-minded people in communities. So in this case, places where maybe you just like put your kit, or places where you rent kayaks, or places where you actually go and enjoy like the outdoors they can become the hotspots of these realities. And this is what we have been doing. We have been so people are coming to us like as outdoor sports, to outdoor centers to actually enjoy the outdoors, and we are saying, oh, you can enjoy the outdoors but also contribute to science. So it has been both like us coming to them, which is through maybe social media and explaining what citizen science is and explaining the projects, and so us coming to them, but also them coming to us in order to live nature in a more aware way. Yeah, it's difficult, but yeah, we're trying to develop all of the tools that we can in order to facilitate this.
When you were actually coming up with the questions that you were looking to answer with these projects, how much did you kind of think about the needs of the participants? Was it that you kind of had a question and then you thought we could ask people who go out and do co-steering or people who paddle to help us answer those questions, or was the question kind of developed considering that method of data collection?
Who wants to answer to
anyone really? But
I think it's half and half. Because it's both like okay, we definitely need this data in order to address this policy or in order to understand this this issue, but at the same time it's like, what can people collect effortlessly in the water without too much training? Because if it's too complicated, then like there's no recruitment and there's no retainment that we were talking about, I think.
Cheap and easy.
Yeah.
Managed to engage the communities of sort of outdoors activities, participants, enthusiasts in the actual development of the protocols and the question and that side of things as well.
Yeah, well, this is something that we've been working on. Like, we are very open to. We have developed some questionnaires in order to understand, both on social media and also like on Google questionnaires, in order to understand where they want to go with citizen science, what they would like to be doing, if they would be interested in that. So it's kind of like an ongoing like marketing understanding of what they want to do, because yeah, they in the end, like, we need data from them. So but I think it's ongoing and it can always be adjusted. There's a question for Francesca as well. Okay, question for Francesca. Thanks for the really interesting presentation. What percentage of all sizes of plastic marine litter is from commercial industrial fishing?
Well, concerning microplastics, it is very difficult to understand which part of the items come from fishing. I mean, we can count the line, the so-called line that very probably comes from fishing nets, but generally speaking, it's quite difficult to really associate the microplastic items to the source, because what we can say is classify the dimension, the structure and the polymer. And so I cannot answer this question precisely, because it is not possible to connect the item with the source so directly. But of course, if we go back to the macroplastic, and during the Microplastic Hunter project, we also collect the macroplastic on the seashore, in the same area where we made the microplastic surveys with the kayak and mini manta. We saw that I don't know, about 30% of the waste that we found on the seashore was connected with the fishing activity. So we found PVC box, piece of nets, and so on. So in some way, we can deduce that what we find on the seashore can be found even on the microplastics in the water. But just only looking to the water sample is very difficult to go back to the origin of these microplastic items.
Awesome. So I don't see any more questions. Maybe, I don't know, if the 27 participants are live, if any of them want to participate in the discussion, feel free to, right, Jack? I'm doing your job.
Raise your hand if anyone's got any last questions. I think we're running quite tight in time now, though. So yeah, if everybody's happy, has anyone got anything else you'd like to add in response to any of those questions? Someone's got their hand up.
Oops.
Kaylee. So
yeah.
Kaylee, you hopefully you can turn on your microphone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. So I'm an aspiring marine biologist. I'm going to be starting marine biology and oceanography in Plymouth University in September.
Awesome.
So to ask if you have any advice for going forwards with I'm scuba diving and stuff. So things I'm looking into now, really, to make sure that I'm going on the right track with it. And have you got any advice, really?
Who to answer this? Okay, is it on me? I do have advices. And enjoy, have fun. Enjoy, have fun, and please just follow everything that really like keeps you alive and tickle like your guts, your brain, your heart. So just pursue with it, and do bother people, because it's through also people that you get opportunities. So if you like someone, then work until you work with them. At least this is what I've been doing, and it's been working quite fine. And yeah, and do not forget about citizen science, because it's a very powerful tool, and we research can't only be restricted to research centers. We need to get out with it, and us as young people, we have the power at our fingertips to actually communicate however we want, with whoever we want, and make connections as far as we can. So take this opportunity, and good luck.
Thank you for an amazing presentation. I look forward to the more in future.
Good luck. Thank you.
Join the MBA as well if you're not already a member.
Yeah, I've joined.
Also that.
Come down and see us.
Also that.
Thank you. Thanks, Kaylee. Okay, there was one more hand up a second ago, but it's gone back down again. Eduardo?
Edo! So Edo has actually been involved, is the intern that Chiara was talking about for the Seaweed Garden project.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for spelling your name correctly in the slide.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see Edo.
No, hands down now. So
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to just on an end note say that it's amazing to have these opportunities to get together between scientists from different regions, but it's also amazing to have opportunities to get together in between roles. So for now we're all scientists, and if you as a scientist you want to link your science project to outdoor communities, then this is your place where you can do it. If you're a kayaker, as some of you were saying, and you would like to in the future participate to citizen science projects and be linked with them, then get involved. This is OutBe is the place where this connection can happen. Has the MBA Special Interest Group for the Mediterranean is where connections in the Mediterranean can happen. So, for example, some of you were saying that you found Patala, ferrugina somewhere, so you can be linked with Mariachiara. And if any of you are working on microplastic, can be linked with Francesca. Anything that regards to physics can be linked to Antonio. So let's make this connection happen, and let's keep connecting dots across borders and science.
That's a fantastic point to end on. So thank you.
Of course.
So yeah, so to wrap up, the last thing to say really is thank you all very, very much for joining us. Hopefully people have kind of seen your links and ways to get in touch with you if they've got questions and they want to get involved. So hopefully you'll have people get in touch with you. If you'd like to be put in touch with any of our speakers, then you can email us events@mba.ac.uk, and we'll kind of make links and put you in touch to share your knowledge and your interests. Okay, so thank you very much. And
thank you.
One last thing, just to point out to everyone, there's a little questionnaire that will pop up when you log out of the Zoom. So if you could take a bit of time to do that, it should only take a couple of minutes, then we would be eternally grateful. But for now, I'm going to close the session. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you,
Francesca,
Thank you.
Antonia,
Thank
Chiara.
you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.